Okay, guys, you're very, very welcome to the Diploma in English for Business Part 1. This is Lesson 2. I am your educator, Jennifer. So everyone's very, very welcome back. So today's lesson is all about honing or improving your communicative and your oral skills. Okay, so as always, for every lesson that you attend live, you're in with a chance to win $1,000. So guys, it's really simple. If you attend live, you can win $1,000. So just do it. Okay, and the winners of this $1,000 are announced on our Facebook page every Tuesday and Thursday at 6 o'clock UK time. So guys, anyone who's just joined, I've literally just started. You're very, very welcome. Okay, so guys, we're absolutely delighted. This month of all months, we've never seen so many people attend live. We're really excited. We've so many dedicated and diligent students. So we're absolutely delighted to see an increase in live student attendance. So you're all fantastic for, coming back on board and being so attentive and patient. Okay, so guys, you've taken your first steps by signing up to the part 1 of the Diploma in English for Business, and of course part 2 is the Advanced Diploma. So you're taking control of your basically your career, of your English for Business, of your goals, etc. So you're all fantastic. Okay, so guys, what did we actually look at in lesson 1? Do you remember? How good are your short-term memories? So what did we look at in the last lesson? Exactly, we looked at business etiquette, very good. What else? Modal verbs, very good. Compound nouns and adjectives. We spoke about cultural sensitivity, excellent, fantastic guys, good stuff. Okay, obviously we had a brief overview of what Shaw Academy is all about. We looked at the course schedule or agenda for the next 4 weeks. We looked at the members area, so some practical issues, and our social media community, so on Facebook and Twitter. We spoke about getting the most from the course, engaging with the course by attending live. We obviously looked at an introduction to English for Business. We looked at the fundamentals of business etiquette. As many of you mentioned, we looked at compound nouns and adjectives, modal verbs, forging and fostering professional relationships, which of course included things like networking, client relations, professional relationships with colleagues and managers, okay? And we looked at a lot of new business terminology and we reinforced the pronunciation of the words. So I know for many of you, English is not your first language. So I will speak as clearly as I can during the webinar. And of course, any questions you have, if they're specifically connected to the content, I can answer them. A lot of the other questions can be answered by our wonderful support team who are with us now live in the chat box. So everyone is live. So keep popping your questions in the question box and one of our support managers will try and get back to you as quick as they can. Now, someone is asking me there, so Alfaraz, you're asking about phrasal verbs. Now, remember, a lot of phrasal verbs are more connected with informal language. The focus here is on formal language, English for Business. So phrasal verbs are generally part of a general English course because that's the type of language people use on the street more in natural, natural interaction. So they're not the focus here. So our focus is formal language, developing your business English. Okay, so I'm going to explain in a minute about oral communication. So don't worry. Okay, so let's keep going. Okay, so today's lesson, you will learn about communication-related contexts in the workplace. And what do I mean by that? In other words, you'll gain confidence and improve your telephone manner. You'll learn how to prepare for meetings. And you'll explore the future tenses and quantifiers because future tenses are often connected to making arrangements like for meetings and conference calls and telephone calls. So the grammar very logically connects with the topic today. We'll also talk about honing or improving your conference call technique. Now, a lot of the language I'll be looking at, of course, it will cross over. You'll be able to use it for the telephone, for meetings, and for conference calls. Some of the expressions will be more specific, but a lot of the language will be, cross-functional, or it'll be applicable, or you'll be able to use it in many of these situations. We'll also take a look at the first conditional. A lot of students get very confused with conditionals, especially when we head into the third conditional and the mixed conditionals. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to start the conditionals today, so to break you in, and then in the next lesson we'll continue and we'll run through all the conditionals. So it's just to get it started today, and next week we'll continue with the conditionals. We'll obviously summarize everything. We'll look at the next steps, and we'll of course have our bonus question and answer session at the very end. So guys, let's begin. Okay, so what is oral communication? Can anyone give me a synonym or another word for that? Exactly, verbal communication, excellent. Exactly, spoken communication, fantastic. Guys, excellent. So it's always good to start with a general definition of communication, and then we'll get specifically into oral communication. So, what is communication? So, there are many forms, exactly, face-to-face, writing, speaking, non-verbal, excellent. So, communication involves sending and receiving information. Absolutely, Mohammed, how to express your thoughts, connect people, very good. There are different types of communication, and many of you are giving me fantastic answers in the question box. Articulation, interacting with others, discussing, conversation, speaking, live communication. Like now, we're communicating. Okay, so examples: verbal or speaking. Non-verbal communication. I briefly mentioned this in lesson 1. So we're talking about gestures. For example, smiling, shaking somebody's hand, or the example in the Japanese example I gave of bowing to show respect. Excellent. Yes, Katabs, bowing. Many of you are typing that. Eye contact. Absolutely, Hussein. So in a professional context, the process should involve reaching a mutual understanding. In other words, everybody should be satisfied. So in terms of mutual, we had that as well in lesson 1. And as you know, mutual means where everybody understands, mutual understanding. So everyone is satisfied and understands, okay? Everyone agrees. And communication is extremely important in every organization between management, departments, and employees. So it's critical. And I briefly mentioned this in lesson 1. So if we get more specific with oral communication, most of you have given me the answer already. So it occurs when a message or information is exchanged or communicated verbally, i.e. spoken, okay? So spoken. Okay, and we have examples like face-to-face conversation, okay? A telephone call, a conference call, or a meeting. So they are all examples of oral communication. Okay, so guys, how can you improve your oral communication in a professional environment? So what do you think, guys? So just type your answers there in the question box. By listening, absolutely. Fantastic, yes. What else? Interacting with others. Keeping it short, very good, yes. Brief. Practice, excellent. Smile. Feedback, yes. Practicing your skills, understanding different cultures, yes. Keeping in touch, being honest, being precise, excellent. Being understanding, empathizing. Guys, fantastic, yes. Okay, so focus on and listen to the professionals you're speaking to. So many of you already mentioned that. Control verbal and non-verbal communication. So we all know sometimes in an office, people can get angry about different things and frustrated, but it's better to try and stay positive and, you know, in terms of how you speak and your body language as well. And I see many of you typing that in the chat box or the question box. So that is important to control your interactions in a professional environment. It's different in your personal life, okay? So you can shout and scream in your personal life, but in a professional environment, we do have to control our behavior and our communication and create a positive and comfortable environment. So another thing as well, sometimes people can get very enthusiastic or excited, and they, you know, maybe they start talking about something and they interrupt somebody. So they speak when the other person speaks. So try and avoid that, guys. Don't interrupt. Show interest in what the other party says. And when I say party in this context, I mean another person or other people. So obviously you need to be confident, empathetic or understanding, diplomatic. So in other words, watch what you say, show respect to others, be positive and encouraging. Now, we had these adjectives in webinar 1, so you probably recognize them. Okay, so try and anticipate the other party's needs. In other words, try and imagine what you think the other people involved in the communication process, what they need, and then the communication is going to be more successful. Avoid being judgmental. So guys, you know, we all have to try and respect each other's perspectives, opinions, and points of view. Obviously, many of you already said, provide feedback where necessary. So, or advice. Now again, just to recap on the new terminology. So that's what we are doing as well. When I'm giving you advice, I'm also trying to contextualize or to give you more background information on each theme, and also it's a foundation or a springboard for the vocabulary to help you build your business English. So, to hone, okay, that means to improve. So it's a synonym or another word for to improve, to hone. So you guys are honing your business, your English for business. So avoid interrupting. So in other words, speaking when someone else is speaking. Absolutely, that's very true, Ibrahim. Improve could be to enhance, absolutely. And a party, as I said, is another person or people. Empathetic, which we saw in lesson 1, is understanding other individuals. Diplomatic, take care how you say something to respect other people, also in lesson 1. Encouraging, of course, to give support to other people. Anticipate the other party's needs. So predict or know what they might need. So the person or the people. Judgmental. So intolerant is a synonym or another word for judgmental. So, and that is when you're not accepting other professionals and their opinions. So we want a very tolerant, comfortable, open-minded professional environment. Again, feedback, we already saw, it's advice about your work performance. And work performance, of course, is how you work. Okay, so quick question. What are confident, empathetic, diplomatic, positive, and encouraging examples of? So again, pop your answer into the question box. Absolutely, they are adjectives. Exactly, spot on, very good. And I didn't even need to load the options. You just know the answer because you're all very, very smart. You're all fantastic students. Okay, so they're examples of adjectives. Okay, so let's move on to the next part of the webinar. So something every professional needs. They want to improve or enhance their telephone manner. So that is very, very important. So we're going to specifically look at how you can improve your telephone manner with actual real expressions, real language that you can use on a day-to-day basis as a professional and actually start practicing your business English. Okay, so that's the idea, guys, that we're going to give you the tools in the foundation and the advanced course to use it in real life and be a better professional. Okay, so guys, how can you improve your telephone manner? Like, what do you think would help you improve your telephone manner? Okay, practice, absolutely. Yes, the tone of your voice, absolutely. Good manners. Speak clearly. Listen. Okay, smile during the conversation. Hopefully they can hear you smile, yeah. Articulate, very good. Be diplomatic, confident. Use, yes, watch your language. Be friendly, respectful, excellent. Okay, so be confident, polite, professional, articulate, and speak clearly. So basically what most of you said. So to articulate, of course, is to express yourself in a confident and clear manner. Now, someone mentioned they're making eye contact. That will become important in a meeting. Because remember, when you're on the phone, the people can't see you. So, if it's a conference call, absolutely, because if the person is live with you and they could see you maybe in the webcam. Okay, so practice speaking on the phone, of course. Prepare a script if necessary. So maybe when you start speaking on the phone for the first time as a professional, you might be a bit nervous, especially if English isn't your first language. So it's okay, to write down a script or what you might say on the phone to help you. I'm not saying every single word, but just some notes to help you and guide you. Okay? Guys, be comfortable with silence. A lot of the time when people speak, they're very, nervous about silence. Let the other person answer you when you ask a question, when you greet them, and the conversation will flow and be natural. Now, Mohammed, absolutely no eating, no drinking, no gum, exactly like if you're in the class. But I can't see if you're eating or chewing gum. So you're okay, Mohammed, in fact. Absolutely. Eye contact as well in an interview. Absolutely. Okay, guys, so you want to answer calls quickly as well and be as helpful as you can to the recipient or the other person on the phone. So obviously use technology and resources to the maximum. We live in the digital age, the computer age, technological age. So we have a lot of tools and resources to help us. So don't be afraid to maximize them. Now, on to the really fun stuff. Language to improve your telephone manner. So, let's imagine I'm starting a phone conversation. So, for the introductions, these are the types of expressions I might use. Now, it's not every single expression, but it's many of them. Guys, a lot of people are asking me why you're muted, so maybe you're a little bit late. Don't forget that you can only hear my voice and everyone is muted, so you are not distracted and you can focus on the content. And that is why the question box is there and our wonderful support managers can interact with you and answer your questions. Okay, so expressions obviously like hello, good morning, good afternoon, things like that. Now, in Ireland, you might laugh if you heard how Irish people interact with each other on the street. So sometimes they might go, oh, what's the story? How are you? And of course, these are only for the street. In an office, you're not going to go, how are you? What's the story? So we need to make sure our language, our telephone manner, we're speaking formally and using the correct language and not using very, very informal expressions. So we have to know the difference, between switching between street language and formal language, different situations. That's very important, of course. Okay, so for example, this is Jennifer speaking. How may I help you? Thank you for calling Shaw Academy. Jennifer speaking. How can or may I help you? So you'll see the modal verbs are absolutely critical in terms of your business English. They're just always popping up, these verbs: can, could, must, have to. Now, may is even more polite than can, but people use both. It just depends. Okay, could I speak to Jennifer, please? Now, you could say can as well, but could is a little bit more formal. May I speak to Jennifer? More formal again. Okay, so this is Jennifer. I'm calling from Shaw Academy. There's another possible introduction. Jennifer speaking. How can I help you? And of course, as several of you mentioned, watch the tone of your voice. So sound enthusiastic, sound happy, sound polite. Okay, could you hold the line, please? Just a moment, please. Okay, so let's say you want to transfer the person to someone else. So I'll put you through to Jennifer. I'll transfer you to Jennifer. Now, a couple of you are mentioning the word pardon. It depends on the context. So pardon is like if someone says, excuse me, pardon, it could be very formal, but on the phone, pardon, you wouldn't say that, can I speak with Jennifer in that context? Okay, so let's say you're having difficulty understanding the other person on the phone. So I absolutely understand, and for many of you, English is not your first language. So guys, don't panic. Particularly, when you're just starting to use your English for business. It's okay to have, sentences to help you to overcome those initial moments when you're, a little bit nervous. But the more you practice, you're going to become really confident when you're using this type of language. And you won't need these sentences anymore, unless the telephone line really is bad. That can happen to anybody if you're connecting with someone very far away in the world. Okay, so for example, the line is very bad. Could you speak up, please? In other words, could you speak, more clearly and raise your voice so we can hear you? Could you repeat that, please? Could you say that again, please? And again, you'll see we use please a lot. We're being very super polite. Could you speak a little slower, please? So maybe the other person on the phone, is speaking very fast, and you just need them to slow down a little. Very good. People are already using the expressions in the chat box or the question box. I'm very impressed. Okay, so let's say you're leaving or taking a message. So you might say, I'll get Jennifer to call you back. Or could you ask Jennifer to return my call, please? So it depends on if you are actually calling someone or they are calling you. Okay, so you also could say, could you tell Jennifer that I called? Can I take a message? Would you like to leave a message for Jennifer? So guys, there are several expressions you can use, and it's very good to vary your language, and that's what's going to really help you develop your English for business. And you'll see that on the advanced course when you start to really get to practice your skills in terms of your oral communication and your written skills, and you'll gain more confidence to be comfortable using more terminology and more language and different constructions. Okay, so I'll make sure she gets the message. Now, nowadays sometimes it can be hard to reach people, so we often hear voicemail. So how do we deal with that? So, hello, this is Jennifer calling. Could you please return my call as soon as possible? My number is... Thank you. So I'm being super polite. Nice phone voice. Hi, this is Jennifer. I'm sorry I'm not available to take your call. Please leave a message and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. So maybe that's my voicemail. Okay, Anna, let's say I want to finish a conversation. What kind of expressions could I use? Okay, so thanks for calling. Have a good afternoon. Have a good evening. I look forward to meeting you. Have a nice day. So maybe you've actually organized a meeting on the phone. So now, Jacqueline, you're asking the difference between would and could. It all depends on the context. Sometimes you might be able to use both, but it varies from sentence to sentence, okay? So, for example, here, could you please return my call as soon as possible? You could say, would you please, in that case, would you please return my call as soon as possible? So sometimes it is possible. So Mohammed, could is more polite than can. And in another context, could is actually the past of can, okay, when we're talking about ability. Okay, so question time. Which of these expressions is the most polite if you want to ask someone to leave a message on the phone for somebody? So, leave a message for Jennifer. Would you like to leave a message for Jennifer? You can leave a message. What do you want to say to Jennifer? So, think about which sounds more polite. Absolutely, it's number 2. Spot on, guys. Very good. Would you like to leave a message for Jennifer? So I'm picking the more formal or polite construction. Okay. So guys, we're doing great. We're flying through the material. We'll keep going, keep the pace. Not too fast, not too slow. somewhere in the middle. So the next part, again, meetings. Meetings are part of every professional's life, especially if you're in a multicultural context. So, or maybe, you might have more meetings and you might find it more challenging if English isn't your first language. So that's why this is very, very important. Okay, so how can you prepare for meetings? Just yourself, again, type in the question box. How do you think you can prepare for meetings? Absolutely, you could prepare notes. Exactly, do research. Have your agenda, very good. Collect information. Maybe, script, maybe some language you could use, Good appearance, absolutely. Set goals, very good. Be confident. Be punctual, excellent. Yeah, perfect. Okay. So guys, identify the purpose or the goal of the meeting and make sure you know what your role is in the meeting. That's very important as well. Also, be aware of the general goals or objectives of the meeting, okay? Okay, know the agenda. So what is the plan or the schedule for the meeting? The agenda. Know the arrangements for the meeting. So the arrangements are the date, the time, and the location, the arrangements, okay? Be well prepared, be well organized. Many of you already said that in the question box. Organize the equipment you need and resources needed, like photocopies. So maybe, everyone needs to receive a copy of the agenda or a project that's being planned or something like that. So make sure you're prepared from a technological side and in terms of resources and photocopies. Just again to reinforce any new vocabulary there, the purpose is the reason for something. So why is the meeting being held or taking place? A goal is obviously synonymous or another word for aim or objective. The agenda, that's the schedule or the plan for the meeting. Now again, agenda is a very specific word that is connected to meetings. So again, we're really focused on the technical language connected to business English, the particular words and language that you'll need. Okay, arrangements are of course like plans. Well prepared, well organized, and photocopies are like printed handouts. So physical copies of something, sheets, paper. Okay, so expressions for meetings. So again, I'm giving you some typical expressions you could use at different stages of the meeting. Okay, so at the beginning of a meeting, the kind of things you might say. Okay, everybody, thanks or thank you all for coming. Now, it depends on how well you know the people, or maybe the meeting is extremely formal. So if it was a little bit more informal, I would say thanks. But if the meeting was very formal, I would go, okay, everybody, thank you all for coming. So sometimes these expressions can vary depending on the situation or how formal the meeting is. Okay, so the person who is basically organizing the meeting, they'll go on the agenda today. We'll be talking about, a new project, practical problems, things like that. Right then, let's get down to business. So in other words, let's continue. And then the person might say, first of all, we'd like to discuss something. Secondly, and finally. So now these kind of words like first of all, secondly, and then finally, we'll see them later in the course when we take a look at formal English for business writing. And of course, they're adverbs, but they're also connectors to help you sequence or shape or structure your writing and your speaking as well if it's very formal. Okay, so during the meeting. Okay, so let's keep this meeting fairly brief. And brief is another word for short. Okay, any other business? So in other words, any other topics or themes to discuss. Okay, so let's say I have a question. I have a question. Why are we changing our strategy for something? Okay, and maybe someone says, oh, I agree with Jennifer. She made a good point. In my opinion, I think we should introduce, a new plan for operations, something like that. Can you elaborate on how we're going to? So elaborate is another word for explain more. Okay, so can you elaborate on how we're going to change our strategy? Okay, can you clarify that, please? So clarify also means explain more, to clarify. Okay, just again to reinforce the new vocabulary. Let's get down to business. Let's start the meeting. Brief, as I said, means short. Any other business? Any other issues to discuss? Can you elaborate on that? Can you explain more? Can you clarify? Can you explain more to make it clearer? So again, guys, I'm really trying to push your formal English for business. So some of these words might be very new to you. Don't panic. It's good. That's why you're here, to learn more. You can play the recording again. It'll be obviously up tomorrow within 24 hours. And you can play the recording as many times as you want for revision to reinforce or revise the new terminology, the grammar constructions, and the language. So don't worry. Okay, some more expressions. Okay, so maybe you want to ask for feedback, after the meeting from your manager, from your team, etc. Okay, so let's say you had a presentation at the meeting. So what did you think about my presentation? Can you provide feedback on the meeting? Did you find the meeting useful? Did the meeting help clarify the current situation? So these are the kind of things that relate to after a meeting, different activities that may have happened. Is there any part of our discussion that you're unsure about? Now, in terms of presentations, we'll also be taking a brief look at that in later on when we talk about business for English writing. I'll talk about making presentations. Okay, providing feedback. So, I thought the presentation went well. You provided great information, and I think everyone was impressed. So, what does impressed mean? Can anyone give me another word for that? Absolutely, yes. Amazed, yeah. Very glad, yeah. Really enjoyed, appreciated, yeah. Okay, what else? The meeting went well. We covered a lot of information and made some important decisions. So whoever gives the feedback is going to try and be diplomatic and make the feedback constructive or positive so that people don't get upset or angry. Overall, the presentation went well, but next time I would recommend you kept it shorter or briefer. I understand, but I'm still unclear or unsure about. When you're not sure about something and you want someone to explain more. Okay, just a few new words there, expressions: to be impressed, to really enjoy and respect something that somebody did or somebody. Okay, overall, and that's considering everything. I'm unclear about, I'm unsure about. Okay, so a few people are asking, one or two, about feedback. So we had that in lesson 1. So do you remember what feedback is from lesson 1? Exactly, it's like advice, okay? So advice may be that your manager might give you about your work performance, about how you're doing, okay? So it's more formal than advice. Okay, question time. Again, type your answers in the question box. Okay, so which of these expressions is the most polite to use in a meeting when you want somebody to explain something more? Okay, I don't understand. Can you clarify that, please? Can you repeat that? What are you saying? So which of those is more polite? Absolutely. Number 2, of course, because it's more formal and more polite. If you say, what are you saying? That sounds a little bit rude. So it's definitely something you want to avoid in a professional, formal context. Okay. Okay, again, on to the really exciting part, one of my favorite parts, the grammar. So we're going to take a look at future tenses for scheduling, organizing, and planning, because that perfectly connects with things like organizing meetings, telephone calls, conference calls, etc. So that it's the perfect time to review that. Now, many of you will have studied this before. For some of you, you might have forgotten it. For some of you, it's revision. Okay, so can you give me examples of the future tense for scheduling, organizing, and planning? Yes. Going to, very good. Yes, will. Absolute. Present continuous, absolutely. Present simple, excellent. Now, shall is the formal version of will. Very good. Now, guys, don't be afraid of grammar. I know some people feel they really don't like it and they try to avoid it. Guys, it's just about practice. That's all it is. Everything in a language is about practice. Okay, so what are they? So future simple, so will, going to, present continuous, and present simple. So I'm going to explain how you use each of these in this situation, okay, for scheduling, organizing, and planning. Okay, so future simple, and it's just will. So it's when you decide something in the moment that you're speaking. So the decision is spontaneous. It's decided in the moment you speak. It's not planned, okay? So the form, so we have our subject, again, I or you, etc. Will, which is our future verb. And again, as we saw before, our infinitive form or the base form of the verb. So, example, we'll start a new project tomorrow. Now, imagine I have decided that now. So the decision for this has been made now. It wasn't something that was planned before. So that's why I use will in this context or situation. Okay, next example, going to. And as many of you know, going to is for plans already organized. So you've already organized or scheduled or planned something. So again, you have your subject, be going to. So I am going to, for example, plus your infinitive. Okay, so we're going to have a big meeting with our boss next month. So here we go with the subject, verb to be, it's the auxiliary or the helping verb, the going to form, and your infinitive. So we're going to have a big meeting with our boss next month. This has been organized. Now, a few people have typed in the question box, I'm willing to. That's another construction. I'm willing to means I want to. I'm willing to. So it looks similar. So it's like will with ing. So I'm willing to means I want to. Okay? Okay, so moving on to present continuous. Now, this is kind of similar to going to, but there is a difference or distinction. So in terms, from a future perspective, we use present continuous for arrangements or plans already organized, but they are very close to now with a time, a date, or a place. So something already organized, close to now, and it has a time, a date, or a place. Okay, so again, subject, the verb to be, auxiliary or helping verb, your verb with the ing, and infinitive. So, I'm meeting a client on Tuesday. Sorry, that should not be there, infinitive. That should not be there. That's wrong. Ignore that. So, I'm meeting a client on Tuesday. That should be noun. So, ignore that. I'm meeting a client on Tuesday at 3 p.m. So, I'm meeting, that's my present continuous. Your client is the noun, and that's your day and your time. So I'm meeting a client on Tuesday. So the reason I used present continuous was because it's very close to now. It's next Tuesday, and it's at 3 o'clock. So some of you are already thinking, can I not use going to and present continuous sometimes in the same context? Absolutely. Of course you can. So, sometimes both going to and the present continuous can be used for the same situation. So in Cambridge English, they really make a strong distinction. If the arrangement is very close to now and has a date, a time, or a place, they will use present continuous, but sometimes both are fine. Absolutely. Okay, and finally, from a future tense point of view, for timetables, we use the present simple or schedules that happen regularly. So again, it's bizarre. The present simple can also be used in a future context, but only when we're talking about timetables or schedules that happen regularly or frequently. So again, my subject and the present form of the verb, And don't forget, this is a big mistake that non-native speakers make. They forget to add the S to he, she, or it. So he, she, he works, or she works, not work. Okay, so example, the bus I take to work departs at 8 o'clock or 8 a.m. every morning. So again, this is a schedule, a bus timetable. So it's referring to a future context, but it's also a routine. So that's why we can use the present simple in this context, because the bus leaves every morning at 8 o'clock. Okay, question time. Which of these sentences is correct for a meeting which is planned for next week? Okay, so I'm going to meet a new client next month. I will meet a new client next week. I'm meeting a new client next week in Paris. Or I meet a new client next week. So which of those is correct? Type your answers in the question box. Absolutely, it is number 3. Why? Of course, because it's present continuous, the arrangement is made and it's close to now, and we have our place and our time, which is next week. Okay, very good. So again, we're getting close to the end. Okay, so don't worry, we're getting closer and closer. You're doing great. We've covered a lot. We only have a little bit more to go, so hang in there. You're doing great. Okay, so on to the third part in terms of oral communication. So we've looked at improving your telephone manner, and we've looked at preparing for meetings. So now we're going to take a look at making conference calls. Now, don't forget, of course, a lot of the language you can use for conference calls can also be used for, telephone calls and meetings. Sometimes you have to adapt or modify the sentences depending on the context, okay? Depending on the context. So how can you improve your conference call technique? So how can you improve it? Absolutely. So you be confident, clear, well organized, set your goals, practice. Absolutely. Be well prepared, be positive, keep it brief or short. Excellent. Okay, so be confident, clear, professional and organized. Be familiar with the technologies and features of the conference call software. So guys, make sure you're comfortable with whatever technology you're using. And that goes for as well with anything. If you have to set up a presentation in a meeting, if you have to use sophisticated software in any type of context. Encourage participants. So you want to make sure that the conference call is interactive, positive and productive, that your goals are achieved. Be punctual, of course. Be aware of where you're conducting the conference call. So just be aware of your location. Where are you when this conference call is occurring or happening? Follow the agenda. So guys, this goes for a lot of things as a professional. No matter what you're doing, you have to set goals and targets to focus your mind so you can achieve your goals. So you're already doing that by being part of this course. So you're setting your goals, and you have to stay motivated and remember your goals or your targets. So use visual aids where necessary to help the discussion. So sometimes if you have a conference call and it's with several people, visuals can really help to clarify a point or just to make the conference call a little bit more interesting. Take notes. That's important as well. So write down the different points of information during the conference call. Keep the call brief, and several of you already said that in the question box, because you don't want to go on and on and on. People will get tired and bored. Okay, so again, just to reinforce some of the new vocabulary, encourage participants. So they are the people who are taking part in the conference call. So encourage is to motivate the individuals involved in the conference call. To conduct a call. So that is a typical verb when we're talking about a conference call, and that just means to make a call. Take notes, to write down key information. And brief, as we already mentioned, means short. Okay, again, these are just some kind of additional expressions for conference calls. Remember, as I said, some of the language that we used for telephone calls and meetings is also applicable or possible to use. Okay, so at the beginning of the conference call, again, you might say, are we all logged in? Can everybody hear me? Like when I'm speaking at the start of the webinar, you know, I do a quick sound check and I make sure everybody can hear me. Did everybody get or receive the agenda? Our main aim today is, so our main goal or aim. Let's keep the call brief. We'll just wait a few minutes before we start. There are a number of issues that we need to address today. So that means there are several topics to discuss today. So a number of issues to address or discuss. Okay, and then you're talking about the agenda. So the first item on the agenda is, the next item on today's agenda is, you might say the third item on the agenda is, and finally. So those kind of expressions. And let's say somebody starts talking about something that's not connected or related to the conference call. You could say something like, oh, we'll leave that topic to another meeting, because you don't want to start talking about things that are unrelated or unconnected. You'll lose focus in the conference call and it won't be productive, and you'll forget about the agenda, and then it'll be a waste of time. So it's important to stay focused and follow your agenda and your goals. Okay, maybe there's a problem with the line. So the line or connection is bad today. Could you speak more slowly, please? The line is bad. Okay, so during the call, so we're progressing more in the conference call. So what could we say? Oh, I'm afraid I didn't catch that. So that's kind of a very natural, idiomatic, native speaker expression. So I didn't hear what you said. I don't follow you. What exactly do you mean? And again, guys, watch your tone during the call. So you want to sound, again, positive, enthusiastic, and, you know, not angry or anything like that. Could you explain that in another way? So again, you want clarification. Okay, and a few more expressions during the call. So continued. I'm sorry, I don't understand the word, let's say, clarification. What does it mean? So you want the person to explain more. And again, I'm just keeping in mind that for many of you, English is not your first language. So some of these sentences will be very or extremely useful. Okay, Jennifer, could you repeat that, please? Could we have some more details, please? Have I made that clear? So maybe, you know, I want to make sure everyone understands the point. And these are the kind of expressions that will help make the conversation flow, or the conference call. I'm positive that we need to change our approach to, you know, allocating or dividing our finances. I recommend that. Now, recommend, of course, what's another word for recommend? So again, just type your answer in the question box. Benjamin, you could say I don't follow you. That's okay. Yeah, I suggest. Very good. Yeah, you should. Absolutely. I advise. Yeah, absolutely. Perfect. Very good. Jennifer, can we get your input? Now, input is basically my ideas. Can we get your input on that? How do you feel about that? What do you think about? So we're looking for somebody's opinion on something in particular. That's interesting. I never thought about it that way before. So you're thinking about something in another way. And these are quite natural expressions as well that will make these meetings and conversations flow as well and make them easier. Good point. I get your point. So I understand what you're saying. I see what you mean. And you might go, Okay, I totally agree with you. And at the end, what are you going to say? Oh, can I add something quickly? I'd like to add something. So you want to say something else. Are we ready to make a decision about the new proposal? So that's an example. Well, that's everything important covered. Any other business? So like we saw in the meeting, we had that expression, any other business. And again, just to reinforce some of that new vocabulary, more details, please, is to give extra information. I'm positive that, I'm sure, or I'm certain that, or about something. I recommend that, I suggest, or I propose. Your input is your ideas or thoughts. I get your point, so I understand what you're saying. I see what you mean. Any other business? So any other matters to discuss? And another question. So again, guys, we're almost there. We're getting to the finish line. So just another little bit to go. So stay with me. I have some important stuff to do. Just a bit more grammar. So just stay with me. We're almost there. So which of these sentences could be used to talk about the first topic on the agenda during a conference call? Okay, so the agenda is, we don't have an agenda. The first item on the agenda is, and what's the agenda? So which of those would be better to use? Yes, number 3. The first item on the agenda is. So number 1 is talking about the agenda in general. So I meant, the agenda is, and you'll talk about all the topics. Okay, so just a few general language tips in terms of oral communication as a professional. So guys, what kind of language is useful in oral communication based on the examples we've seen? So like in summary, what is actually useful? After now we've looked at, improving your telephone manner, making conference calls, and conducting meetings or preparing for them. So what kind of language? Exactly. Polite, yeah. Formal language, yeah. Modal verbs, very good. Yeah, clear language, absolutely. Concise, very good. Positive, yes. Formal, absolutely. Okay, so formal and polite language. Intonation is very important. So the tone of your voice. So if I raise my voice, so that's raising my voice, that can tell you a lot about what somebody's saying and how they feel. Okay, contractions. So remember when we're speaking, we can shorten the words. So I will becomes I'll, of course, in spoken language. Oh, I'll return your call as soon as I can. So contractions are quite useful in spoken language. Of course, we use modal verbs, and that can make our speech or our oral communication more formal. And don't forget, if we use expressions like a bit, a little, quite, a few, or very well, you can make your sentence sound more polite. Now I'm going to elaborate or explain that more in a couple of minutes. Okay, so this relates to the next point, quantifiers. What are quantifiers? Do you remember? Very useful little pieces of language that can be very useful in your English for business when you want to describe things more. Enough, absolutely. Must, many, absolutely none. Excellent. Okay, so when do we use them? When you want to give information about the quantity of something, so how much or how many. And the example from the previous slide was just that. A bit, a little, quite, a few, or very well. Now, these can be put together with other quantifiers as well. I know I've had quite enough. So again, they can really tell you a lot about a sentence. And don't forget, we have quantifiers for countable nouns. In other words, people are countable, 1 person, 2 people, 3 people, or uncountable, like money. So different quantifiers for these, but some of the quantifiers you can use for both. So these are the quantifiers that you can use for both countable and uncountable quantifiers. So all, any, enough, less, a lot of, more, most of, no, none of, some, quite, very, to, and so. So example, now here I'm mixing the quantifiers. So I'm quantifying the quantifier even more. So I have too many expenses this much. I have too much time. So example, I allocated so much time to the project. So there we go. So much, too many. I was given quite a few. So quite together with a few, quite a few projects to complete. In other words, a lot. So the person is really expressing, more in the sentence. With these little words, they can do so much for a sentence. Okay, so again, money is an example of an uncountable noun, in case you've forgotten. Okay, more examples. So these are the specific quantifiers for countable nouns. So things like I said, like people, participants, Students, they're all countable nouns. So these are the countable quantifiers for the countable nouns. So many of, or many, a large number of, a number of, numerous. Again, numerous means many, but it's more formal. Both, a couple of, each, every, either, or neither, which is the negative form of either. A few, or few, fewer, or several. Okay, so examples. We have a large number of clients. We have a large number of clients. So again, a large number of is the quantifier. The company has several new ideas. So the company has several new ideas. Again, several being the quantifier. Uncountable quantifier. So here are some examples. So much of, a bit of, a little, and quite. So examples, I have quite a bit of money saved. So quite a bit of. I have little time. I have little time to finish the project. Now little can also be an adjective, but in this context it's a quantifier. I have little time. So in other words, you don't have much time. Okay? Question time. Which of these is not a quantifier? So which of these is not a quantifier? We're almost there, guys. Only another little bit to cover. Okay, so too much, quite a lot of, good, a little bit, or so many. So which of those is not a quantifier? Absolutely. Number 3, good. Exactly, because good is an adjective. Very good, very good. And finally, again, I just want to briefly introduce this. We'll elaborate on it more in the next lesson 3, which is coming next week. Okay, so first conditional. So when do we use it? Okay, so there's actually an example from the previous slides, which I'm going to show you now in a second. Okay, so remember, the first conditional is used when you're talking about a situation that is very possible. There's a high possibility that this situation will happen. It's very real. Okay, so this is the example sentence. If you use a bit, a little, quite, a few, or very well, comma, you can make your sentence sound more polite and softer. So that is, in fact, an example of the first conditional. It's something that's real. It's something that's very possible. Because if I use any of these expressions, this is true. My sentence will or can sound more polite and softer. Now, here's the structure again. So don't forget, I have my if, obviously your subject, present simple, comma, will or can, and your infinitive form of the verb. Okay, so another example. If I negotiate well, and don't forget the comma to separate the two parts or clauses of the sentence, I will or I can come to an agreement. Now, I'll be looking at negotiations again in the next lesson, which I will explain a little bit on in just a minute. So, don't forget, can is another option sometimes for will. It's not always possible to use both. Generally, will is more typical, but can is often possible in most cases. Now, if I negotiate well, so you're talking about if you bargain well with someone, so you want something and you come to an agreement, okay? So this will be revealed in the next lesson, what I'm talking about in that. So again, it's if, obviously your subject, present simple, so negotiate. Don't forget the comma, I will, your subject, will, and your infinitive form of the verb. Now, this is just something small to consider, something minor. If I change the order of the sentence and I put if in the middle, there's no comma. So if I said, I will come to an agreement if I negotiate well, there's no comma when the if is in the middle of the sentence. Now, even native speakers forget these kind of things. So this is where it's important as well that we take a look at punctuation, which is later in the course when we start talking about business English writing. So you can see, guys, all the lessons are important, particularly as we're progressing more and more and we start going into, lessons 6, 7, 8. So it's important to attend all the course live because we're building and building and building the foundations of your English for Business before you do the advanced diploma. Okay, so of course, we have a question. So which of these is not an example of the first conditional? So I'm almost finished. This is my last question on the grammar. If the company makes a lot of profit this year, it can open another branch. Now, another branch is another company, basically. The employees will be happy with a higher salary. If you win €1,000, you can go traveling. If you're a motivated professional, you'll be successful in your career. So which of those is not an example of the first conditional? Exactly. Number 2, the employees will be happy with a higher salary. Excellent. Guys, fantastic. Again, in the next lesson, I'll do a recap of the first conditional and we'll look at second, third, and mixed conditionals. Fun times ahead. Now, just again there, a branch is another office. So, for example, Shaw Academy have other branches around the world. Like I said in the last lesson, in Germany, in America, in the UK. Okay, don't forget traveling. If I spell it with 2 L's versus 1 L, of course, the difference is with 2 L's British English, 1 L is American English, and your career is your work. Okay, so your professional life. Okay, so basically, just to summarize, you learned about communication related contexts in the workplace. You gained confidence and improved your telephone manner. You learned how to prepare for meetings. You explored the future tenses and quantifiers. You honed or improved your conference call technique, and you explored the first conditional. Okay, so guys, now we can continue building on your English for Business. So guys, make sure you attend all the lessons live because you can ask questions in real time and you're going to get the maximum benefit from this. So don't forget, we're here to help you. So you contact us anytime, you can call us, you can email us, and I'll pop up the contact details in the next few slides. Okay, next lesson. So guys, the next session is part 2 of your communication skills, the art of negotiating. Okay, so again, remember negotiation can be part of a very special type of meeting. So again, we're just going to talk more about how to develop your communication skills and how to bargain or to negotiate, particularly if English is not your first language. How you could improve your confidence, your language skills, your English for Business, so you can operate effectively with English, okay? Your business English. So you'll learn about the art of negotiation, you'll gain confidence and improve your ability to negotiate, you'll learn how to prepare for meetings involving negotiation, you'll study the conditional tenses, we'll look at an international case study, and of course, you'll acquire more business terminology and be exposed to pronunciation. So again, if you attend all the live lessons, you're going to really build your knowledge and you'll find it much easier when you come to the final exam and the advanced course. Don't forget, in lesson 6, we're giving away a fantastic prize, a lifetime membership to study with Shaw Academy. So you'll be able to study with Shaw Academy forever. Every course you want, you can dream of. Again, don't forget the recordings will be available within 24 hours. And you go to the website, in the top right hand corner, you log in and it brings you to your members area where you'll find the recordings, the assignments, etc. So again, guys, I briefly mentioned this in the last lesson. Does anyone know what Charlie and the Chocolate Factory have in common with Shaw Academy? So many of you may not know this book or film. So if you're not sure about this, we're going to reveal the answer in lesson 6. But, maybe you can Google the film and tell me in the next lesson what you think they have in common. Okay, so again, don't forget the next lesson. So part 2 of your communication skills. And you're going to further develop your communicative and oral skills. You're going to learn to negotiate. We're going to expand on your business terminology, the grammar and pronunciation. And we'll really be getting into the core or fundamental areas of English for Business. And we'll give you another clue to this Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, this mystery that's connected to lesson 6. Again, very important, don't forget our website. It's www.shawacademy.com. Of course, our Facebook page, our Twitter page. And if you need to email us, the address is english.business@shawacademy.com. And if you have a more technical query, you can contact support@shawacademy.com. And in terms of the telephone calling us. Again, the numbers will be on the website in your area or whatever region you're living in or part of the world. Okay, so guys, do you have any final questions? So someone's asking about missing lessons for the lifetime membership. So you need to attend 80% of the lessons before lesson 6 to be in with a chance to win the lifetime membership. Now, someone is asking me about the weekly assignments. So there are 10 questions. So it'll be available each lesson. So there's 4 practice assignments and then 1 final assignment, which is number 5. And they're available in your members area, in the assignments area. 10 multiple choice questions. You can practice as many times as you want. And it's self-correcting. In other words, it's automated, or the software corrects the assignment. It's multiple choice questions. So what else? So Azine, you're asking more about pronunciation. So what I would recommend to improve your pronunciation, you need to watch and listen to English every single day of the year. So you need to start watching, the news in English to develop your formal English. Films, TV shows, but from all over the English-speaking world. Listen to music, watch the lyrics. So guys, the way to develop things like listening and pronunciation is to listen to people. And you know what you can do? You can actually record yourself as well with all the wonderful technology we have in mobile phones and tablets. And you can hear yourself and compare it with what you hear a native speaker saying if you're watching something. Also, websites like BBC, they do practice as well for students, Okay, so what I recommend, so someone's asking me about the webinars and listening or writing. What I recommend is just listen to the webinar 100% now when it's live. And then after, when the recording is posted, watch the recording again or as many times as you need and take notes. Write down the key ideas after. It's better now to give your full attention, especially if English is not your first language, so you can catch and focus on what I say and pay attention to the screen, see the words, hear them, and absorb the information, okay? Okay, again, Mohammed, a recommended reading list will be posted in your resources area, and Shaw Academy have a bookstore, and I'll post the links to those specific books. Again, Solon, you're asking, how do you improve reading? Guys, if you want to improve anything in a language, it's about practice, practice, practice. Start reading newspapers every day, magazines, books, reading something like the Financial Times, The Economist, books. You got to stay motivated and push yourself. It's just about practice and dedication. And you've taken the first step. You're on this course. So that's all it is. Set yourself goals, okay? No, Lamise, you cannot download the recordings. They're only exclusively available to Shaw Academy students. So again, we can't have it available to non-students. It's only exclusively available to you guys, our full members. So Mustafa, this lecture is live now. Okay, that's what live means. So you're listening to me now in real time. Okay, we're live. So it's a real webinar. So the recording will be posted tomorrow. Okay, so Ahmed, the software calculates what percentage you get in the final exam. So yes, you can get a certificate in different countries. That's absolutely possible. It will be sent out because, we have our student profiles so that we can see where you're from and to send it out to you. So don't worry about that. Okay, so what else? Habiba, like I said, practice, practice, practice. That's how you're going to develop your English. So guys, you can just see your own question because you wouldn't be able to focus on the webinar if you were reading all the other questions coming in. We have very high volumes of questions, okay? So Azia, the software tracks your attendance as well. We have attendance records, so don't worry. We know that. You don't need to worry about it. So, Hafia, your homework is to look at the recordings and revise the recordings and to do the weekly assignments, which are only 10 multiple choice questions, and they're fantastic practice for the final assignment. Again, spelling. Your spelling will be developed through reading and writing. So, Muas, you're speaking, you are muted. So, guys, everybody is muted because otherwise you would hear too many voices and you wouldn't be able to focus on my voice or the webinar. So that's why you interact through the chat box. Okay, what else? So, Hassan, in the recommended reading list, there's a book that will be connected to meetings. Okay, so the weekly assignments are available at the end of every week. So there's 4 assignments. So 1 at the end of every week. And assignment 5, i.e. the final exam, is also posted in the final week. Okay, guys, I'm going to wrap it up now. I'm going to finish up. So I'd like to thank you all for your attention. You've all been fantastic. Make sure you come back to lesson 3 and that you keep building Attending Live to prepare you for the final exam and for the Advanced Diploma in English for Business. So wherever you are in the world, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. Okay, so I'm saying good night here from the Dublin office. So guys, it's been an absolute pleasure, and make sure you come back and join me live next week for lesson 3. So imagine that, we're already into lesson 3. Time flies when you're having fun. Guys, thank you again. I hope you enjoy the rest of your week and the weekend, and don't get out there, start practicing your English for Business, look over the recordings, do the weekly assignment, and you'll be flying. So see you all next week.